Game 12, final game of the match between Caruana and Carlsen. And I have to say, after looking at the game today, that I think Magnus is a bit broken. Because the position that they agreed to a draw in today that Magnus offered, he showed no fighting spirit whatsoever in a better position. So they repeated a line that they've gone through a few times now with the Sveshnikov. I think this is the third attempt at this variation. And after d6, Caruana decided to go with this sideline move, knight d5. So I investigated why he wasn't playing the main line. And let me give you a solid example game why he didn't go into it, because, and this actually happened on this by accident, because I was looking at alternatives for what white could do. And this is the main line. And I was like, okay, so c4 is pretty good. And I felt like this is like the most principled way to play. We're going to play moves like g3, h4, get our bishop out in some way, and then eventually just have a full clamp on the d5 square. But Caruana had actually lost a game to Mamadayara from this position. And this explains why he's not going into the line. And this position seemed fine. In here, bishop f5 felt a little sketchy to me. I felt like probably bishop g2, and you just have to wait around. But black definitely got an active position. And already, black has dynamic equality. And here, Caruana gradually gets outplayed in this endgame. And black's winning here. And just to emphasize, in queen endgames, whoever has the furthest protected pass pawn is typically going to be the winner. And all white can do is really try to get a perpetual check. Black defends his king. And then 3 pawns are more than enough to be able to convert. And white resigned there. So going back, another option that I was looking at for a potential surprise, because in these situations it's important to, at least shock your opponent with your preparation. A4, and I found pretty straightforward play that I felt like this would be a nice position for white doing this type of play. You're not really doing much here, and this is already a little bit better for white. And this was played in Warsaw 10 years ago with players that are both mid-2500s FIDE. So going back to the main game, I mean, as soon as I saw this move, I'm like, uh-oh, is he going to impale himself and fall on the trap? Because if you play a6, queen a4, you can't take the knight because the rook hangs. So if bishop d7, this is it. Can you guys find it? Try all the checks. Checks captures threats. Anybody got an idea for white? Uh-huh. Knight d6. And what's that called? Checkmate. You can't do anything about it. That's a squish. All right. So after knight g6, that's not a problem anymore. But he plays the move anyway. So you can block with the bishop because black's dark square bishop is defending the pawn. So he gets off the pin, attacking this pawn. And already, this position had been reached only, I think, 4 times in the Lee Chess database. And Carlsen quickly played a novelty here. A6 had been played before. Carlsen played h5. It was a6, h5, and it was understandable because this position was played before, and it seemed like white had the better of it. So after h5, we've got queen a4, and they're repeating moves here. And everything's going fine. There's all this pressure seems to be slowly building in the position for black. I mean, black's really getting his dream position already. This castle queenside idea was a bit shocking. And after f5, Like, I respect Caruana's decision to try to keep the tension, but knight g5 I feel is definitely going to be the best option. Knight f2, and black's already well in the driver's seat at this point. Knight c5, and here f4 was just another veering from the path. I believe the computer recommended bishop takes c5 here and just bailing out, but it's so hard to do in a critical game like this. And this is another one of those points that are showing huge weakness on Magnus's part, that normally Carlsen, he's the best player in the world by far. So when he is on, there's nobody that can touch him. And in this case, he's showing such an unwillingness to go into any sort of complications that, I don't know, I think he's psychologically not all there for the match right now. He should have played e takes f4 here, and after bishop takes f4, b5, and with thematic Sicilian move. And after, say, queen d2, bishop f6, if you grab this pawn, after rook a8, pretty much all of black's pieces, save for the bishop on g6, are coordinated to attack white's king, whereas black's king is completely safe. So it's going to be a one-sided defensive position that is going to be very, very difficult for white to play. And I believe this was already at a pawn and a half edge for black, according to the engine. But after a5, e4, this position's back to only, a booger's worth better for white. So bishop e8, king b1, and we still have some great coordination. And all Caruana can really do is make passive moves in this position. g6, rook d1, and Magnus plays rook a8 and offers a draw. And this is a huge shock, in all honesty, because everything is going the right way for black. And why I kept saying that I think Magnus is like broken psychologically in this match so far is, and he's just so ready to go to the tie breaks and get this thing over with, that he didn't think about trying to win the one game. And I mean, there's too many times where players have said that Carlsen is their favorite player because of his fighting spirit. And this is just so far against what I've seen Magnus do in the past that, I believe his fans should be concerned for him retaining his world title on the 28th when he plays the tiebreak games. So how the tiebreak is going to work in this World Championship. So the regular match is done. They're going to play first 4 games of game in 25 with a 10-second increment. If there is no winner after those 4 games, then they go to 2-game mini matches of 5 minutes with a 3-second increment. And again, increment is when time is added after the move. So if all 5 of those mini matches are drawn, then they go to Armageddon. Armageddon works like this. White gets 5 minutes, black gets 4 minutes. And according to the rules, they don't get the 3-second increment until after move 61. So for that 1 minute edge on the clock that white gets, black gets draw odds. So if black draws, or if the game is drawn, black wins. So that way they guarantee that there is a winner. And this is kind of a shame for Caruana at this point, because he could be the only world champion to win a match by technically not winning any games. And that's a shame. So I really feel like, and I mean, I'm friends with a number of professional players on Facebook, and Gata Kamsky started some polls and asking, what should we do? And should we bring back things like, should we bring back the first player to 6 wins? I mean, a lot of people were agreeing with that. I don't think so. I mean, history shows that when Kasparov and Karpov's endless match, like it's not right to make players play to 6 wins, especially if they're playing like they did in this match. But 24 games, absolutely. I think we should bring back the classical format. That is, if the financial situation behind FIDE were to drastically change. Maybe FIDE should handle itself instead of handing off their world championship to Aegon and companies like that. Just an opinion.